Hello, welcome to the Scrum Master chat room, and I'm always happy to have you back. Today is an exciting day, and today we have like a pre-mock interview, and just excited to share this with you, and also thank the contributor for allowing us to share this with the team. I know you're out there, you're interviewing, and definitely we're going to look at how a Ray interview really goes and how you can start kind of familiarizing yourself with the environment. And if you want to join our mastermind, this is how we help most of our team members actually get through before they get on their interview. We kind of do them a pre-mock interview. All right, without wasting much time, let's get in. But before that, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you're always the first to get the video. All right, let's go. Now, I want to kind of put it in a Ray interview, and this is kind of like your first stage interview. In most of the first stage interview is going to be about 30 minutes between you and the hiring manager, and it's going to be kind of technical, non-technical. All right. Hello, Mr. John. Thank you for creating the time to talk to me today. And the position we're going to be interviewing for is with one of our client. And we just started, and we had about 2 Scrum team. We're looking for someone to start another team. So looking at your resume, I kind of see that you're a great fit for our position, and we're kind of looking forward to bring someone in as much as possible. This is going to last for about 30 minutes. And so, before we kind of start with the interview, do you have any question for me?
Hello, Dr. Francis. Good afternoon, and happy to have me. If I have a question, it wouldn't definitely be now. I will stop you. Whatever I have a doubt or a question, then I will ask you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm gonna try to keep it within 30 minutes, and also I try to make it as fun as possible. All right, can you go ahead, Mr. John? Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
My name is John Williams. I have over 6 years experience as a project program manager, and over 3+ years as a Scrum Master. Prior to me becoming a Scrum Master, I was working on a developmental project with 6 other organizations. And it was always cumbersome for me because we were working from different countries. So with this, I went to the internet and I was trying to surf the internet and look for better ways to manage and facilitate projects that encompasses different organizations, but working on the same project. And I came across Safe Scrum. I read about it, and I was able to use this Scrum framework and the Scrum guide to facilitate projects better, and the project outcome and the goal were more realistic. And I found out that it was really an easier, it's a framework that was wonderful in the way that it uses his guides to manage projects. When that project got finished in 2 years, I enrolled took my certification and landed my first role as a Scrum lead with Autopilot Academy. That lasted for a 2 years interval. And then I landed myself a role as a Scrum Master with CM Worldwide, an internet company, an IT company. And there we were able, and as a Scrum Master, we were building an application interface for one of our clients in the health sector. And with this app, clients could be visited visually, and the nurses working on various clients never had to manually document their work. They had to go through the transition of manual documentation to digital documentation, and where you could clock in and out from your client's location. So that's it about me.
Oh, thank you. Are you still currently working at your current position, or your contract is was it a contract position full time?
Yeah, it was a contract position. It wasn't a W-2, and it just ended 5 days ago, and that's why I'm in the job market now.
All right, thank you very much. And can you give me like what was it like in a Ray kind of Scrum environment? What was your experience facilitating the different Scrum events?
Okay. In a real Scrum environment, in my previous job as a Scrum Master, we will use the 5 Scrum events of sprint planning, or you call sprint iteration in a safe environment, daily stand-ups. We use reviews, retrospectives, and backlog grooming to work on our project. And as a Scrum Master, I was able to use the Scrum framework to facilitate projects in this field. And literally, we will run a 2-week sprint that would start on Tuesday and end on Tuesday. And within that 2 weeks, we'll try to, build our stories with the help of the product owner. I plan it. What I do as a Scrum Master is before the sprint planning, we first go through the grooming, the backlog grooming, and make sure that all the stories there meet acceptance criteria. And then during our sprint, I evaluate my team capacity. And within capacity, I'm talking about how much people we have in my team. You want to be, I was able to look at who is going on vacation, who's taking on holidays, to be able to, come up with a velocity that's how much stories that the team can commit. And during that, I will introduce and hand it over to my product owner, who will lead. And then what we will do is, once a story met an acceptance criteria, which is generally means that the story meets the definition of done, we will pull it up and then use a planning poker to vote for the story so everyone can commit. And then once it's committed, the story is ready to kickstart. And the remaining of the days, I will do daily stand-ups to follow up with my team and facilitate them and make sure that they are working in an alliance to our spring goal. And on the day before the spring ends, I will facilitate the spring review, where I bring in the stakeholders, the product owners, and the developers. We will present, the developers will present to them what they had done in retrospect to the spring goals. And there we are able to inspect, we are able to make adaptations. And we also do spring retrospective, where I and my team just come together and see where we did good and where we did not do really good, and try to go forward. And with the spring retrospective and spring review, I try to make it not as a routine, but I try to make it as an environment where everybody came prepared for something different. It's not just like a culture where you come in and know, okay, I'm doing review and retrospective, but I want them to come in with a mindset for commitment and growth. So the way I facilitate spring review, every spring review and every spring retrospective is always different. For instance, I could come in and I just ask the people to tell me in the spring review how they feel about the project that we just did. And from what everybody says, you literally know that everybody commits, and the people will write how they feel. And in that way, you get everybody to integrate, to participate, and the event doesn't become boring. Oh, so literally, that's what I do.
So did you say that was a spring review or the spring retrospective? What you just described?
That was a spring retrospective.
All right, I thought I just got away. All right, okay, thank you. Now, have you in any of your spring experienced kind of not being able to complete your spring goal? What actually happened, and what action did you take as a Scrum Master?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. Yeah. In my last company, there was a situation like that. It happened twice. Um, the first time, I would just bring one incident. The first time, we had a team capacity of six, and at the middle of the spring, two of my team members, very prominent team members, the developers, they were sick, and two had emergencies and they had to attend to. So at the end of the day, we had like over 30 stories that were uncommitted to. And what I did as a Scrum Master is we had to anyway close the spring and then we move forward those stories that were not committed to the next spring.
So did you close the story at the spring, at the middle of the spring, or was it at the end of the spring?
It was at the end of the spring. We had to close everything at the end of the spring, and what we didn't commit, we take it over to the next spring.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, looking at planning out your spring and looking at trying to manage some of the challenges that come with what I do understand that in an agile environment, we want to build and move so fast. But sometimes for some work to be completed, we need maybe we need correlation and cooperation between teams that lead to a lot of dependency. And sometimes it might really kind of hold work back. So what do you ensure to kind of limit to manage dependency while working with your team?
Thank you very much. About dependency while working for a team, what I usually do is I try to make sure that as a team, we break down our stories as small as possible in such a way that the wait time between stories is not that too large. Let me say if a story has a size of 6, we want to be able to break it down to 2 in such a way that it doesn't create that big gap between maybe a back-end developer and a front-end developer. In that way, you try to eliminate dependencies. So we break down our stories to very small pieces, and in that way, we can be able to work on and eliminate dependencies within the team.
Okay. What if it's an external vendor where you probably don't have so much control over?
Yeah, thank you. With an external vendor, obviously, I try to I try to give an early date of delivery. If the delivery were to be in, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks time, I make it in 2 weeks in such a way that if there are any dependencies, we use that time to cover up the dependencies before the actual delivery date.
Okay, thank you. What are some of the common impediments you encounter in your team, and how did you resolve them as a Scrum Master?
Thank you very much for that question. Usually working for a team, we must have impediments. Even though as a Scrum Master, I try as much as possible not to focus so much on impediments. I focus so much rather on building. Mm-hmm. But in building too, there's sometimes that you have healthy conflicts. You have some impediments. Like one time in my previous job, there was a guy that was always coming late for work. He will always come late. He doesn't want to commit. I talked to him. I talked to him once. I talked to him twice. He wasn't still committing. And other developers were trying to complain about that. And what I did is I called him for a post-Scrum meeting, a one-on-one meeting. And because I have been able to build that trust and there is transparency in my team, he actually told me what he was going through was more like a marital issue, and Just because he's my team member and we had become family, I took out some time and I counseled him, gave him some advice, asked him to, think if he wanted to take 2 or 1 day off. Um, and then he did, and he came back stronger and ready to work again.
Oh, thank you. And did that happen a lot or just some of the time?
No, it happened it was just that one time. It didn't happen a lot. Once you build that trust, and once you're always ready to build uh, an environment for an activity for production, you in any way try to limit space for dependencies, like space for impediments like that. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to kind of measuring the way your team is productive, what are some of the things you do to be able to evaluate the performance of your team?
Come again, sir. I didn't hear you.
Measuring your team performance. How do you measure your team performance as a Scrum Master?
It looks like the network is breaking. I couldn't really hear you.
So the question is, how do you measure your team performance as a Scrum Master?
Oh, how do I measure my team performance as a Scrum Master?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's a good one. So the way I measure my team performance is relatively different in every sprint. The way my team commits to the stories and the way we work is, first, like I said, I will talk so much about trust. I build so much trust and so much transparency around my team in such a way that I let everyone work in a free environment. I create that atmosphere for a free and safe work environment. And when you do that, you are giving room for everyone to be at their best. And how I measure my team environment sometimes, it's by using the tools that are available to me, like Jira, to track the progress of my team. I also do daily stand-ups with my team to know on what stories they're working on if they're having any difficulties, and to be ready to track their progress on whatever stories that they are working on. And these are some of the ways that I try to manage and measure the development of my team members.
Okay. Apart from that, do you use like other metrics apart from just building a good environment and with different Scrum event? Are there other metrics to consider?
Yeah, I do consider different metrics, but at this point, I cannot really say what metrics that I consider. Like I told you, it's different for me every time.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Now, let's move into talking a bit about some of the experience you've had working with 2 different teams. I've seen that you've worked with like 2 different teams. Now, have you kind of come in a situation where you actually fail your team? You feel like, oh, I did not really help my team, or I kind of let my team down. Have you encountered such a scenario?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I actually encountered a scenario, and I love the fact that I encountered it because it pushed me more to grow like in my few years as Scrum Master. It was in my previous job. It was a young team, and I was working with this young team that never had a lot of experience. And I had, of course, built the trust and the transparency that I needed to be among them, but I had not taken time to build a solid relationship with my team. So there is a guy that was like a backbone in the development team, and he had a serious problem with his home. He was actually homeless for some days, and so his attitude towards work, his commitment towards work, and his overall countenance changed in about 2 or 3 days. So instead of me trying to talk to him and be a good listener and be the servant leader and understand the circumstances that would have pushed him to, change,
Yeah.
I was busy asking him to overcome it. Do the job. Do the job. You are not doing your job. You have to do your job. And in that, I forgot to understand that he could be going through so much since he wasn't portraying the characters of the person that I know. So I thought that I'd fade because that led to me reporting him to my boss, and he was actually given a first warning. But after I learned that he was actually going through that, and because I was over pressurizing him, he couldn't do the work that he was supposed to do. And we, as a result of that, we were unable to meet our spring goal. And we actually closed the spring, but we did not meet the spring goals. There were stories that were left unattended to, and work that was left attended to because of that setback from him. So I felt like I failed the team, because if I had gone closely and given listening ear and give an honest opinion on what was going on or an advice, it would have been a different situation. So I felt like I typically led the young team down instead of lifting them up.
All right, thank you. Now, kind of in relation to that situation, let me put you on a spot here.
Yeah.
What happened? What will you do if you plan your spring, you have your spring goal, your capacity is full, and 3 days into your spring, one of your main back-end developer pull out and resign, and you know that this is definitely going to affect the entire spring goal. What will you do as a Scrum Master?
Oh, thank you for that question. First, as a Scrum Master, I try to build a team to make sure that there is not that big dependency in my team. But in this situation, I will be able to talk to my team members to be able to assess their capacity and see if there's somebody that can start, or there's some people that can cover up with some of the stories in their team. And if they can, then we will have to go ahead and work on the stories that we can work with. And at the end of the spring, when we close the spring, the stories that we cannot work with due to that, then we're going to move it forward to the next spring. So we can cancel a spring that has already started because someone has dropped out. That's why it's always important to assess your team capacity before you even commit to a spring. So, and when you assess that, you want to, see who is going on vacation. You want to see how you can cover some of those loopholes. So I would just have to talk to my team of developers. If there are any persons that think that they can step up and take some of those stories, okay. If they can, then we will commit on the ones that we can commit. And at the end, when we close the spring, then we will have to move that to the backlog.
Okay, thank you very much. And kind of moving towards the last question. Now, before we kind of close our spring, or we kind of consider that a story is considered completed, there's some minimum criteria they made, which is called a definition of done.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that all the stories that are in your team meet that definition of done as a Scrum Master?
When the stories have met the acceptance criteria,
Okay.
and when the developers are ready to commit to the story, then the story must have met a definition of done.
All right. Thank you. Do you have any question for me?
Of course. I have like two questions to ask you.
Okay.
The first question is, what is the work culture and the working environment of this company?
Overall, I would say it's a great company, fast growing company, and we're building like really fast growing team. I wouldn't not so much bother about the work culture. I would say it's been a great experience being part of this company.
Okay. Another good question is, I know many interviewers will be asking me, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What I ask them in return is, where do we see this company in the next 5 or 10 years?
Definitely, that's going to be a good question for the CEO, but I would say being part of this company, it has a great future. That's what I can say. It's really promising. The people around are nice, and definitely, if you have a chance to work here, I guess you love the environment.
Okay, last question. When should I be expecting a feedback from you guys?
All right, great question. I'm gonna kind of forward my note to the hiring team, and you're gonna hear from them soon.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you, Dr. Francis.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was good. So let's do a bit of assessment on how you did. So overall, if this was your first interview, definitely you stand really high chances to move to the next level. A couple of things you need to work on. Mm-hmm. I'll start with the last question when I spoke about the definition of done. So yeah, the definition of done, it's kind of informed by the acceptance criteria. So when all the stories have met the acceptance criteria, it's considered done. Now, what you need to understand is that while you are doing your planning for a story to kind of get into the sprint backlog, mm-hmm. that story need to have acceptance criteria and all the description. And during planning, you and your team, you're pulling out the story. The developers are kind of asking questions if the description is clear, if they all understood the acceptance criteria. So while they are building their stories along, while they are building during the spring, they are checking to see that what they are building have passed all the acceptance criteria. When they have passed all the acceptance criteria, then they move it to ready for acceptance. Mm-hmm. So the person who is accepting the story, it can be the product owner or the QA. It depends on the team. Okay. The person who is accepting the story now come and then double check to see that what they have submitted as ready for acceptance has met all the acceptance criteria. And then if you pass that checkup, it's called done. Now, in some of the interviews, what you might get instead of definition of done is like, what is the role of the QA? What is the role of the quality assurance in the Scrum team, right? Some team might have quality assurance. Now, if you don't know, you can kind of say, okay, in my previous team, the product owner was responsible for assessing the story and accepting it. I did not really work directly with someone that was assigned the role of the QA, right? So that's going to be the best answer. But then if there's a, but then if there's a QA in the team, if the quality assurance in the team, now they're the one to do all the check and validate and then consider it as done. In some of the teams, they use like the senior developers to kind of check and then accept. in some of the teams, they do like cross testing, right? Someone build a story, send to the other one, they double check, and then move it. They do
Yeah.
like a double checking. Yes.
So what is the role of a tester in the Scrum field?
A tester is more like the QA, like the quality assurance.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it depends on the product you're building if you need to go through all the tests, kind of stuff. But if you work in a safe environment, they do what they call a continuous CPA, continuous pipeline delivery, which means they automate, that's the DevOps, they automate all the testing in such a way that if you build a story and it doesn't pass the test quality, automatically the system rejects it. So they automate most. So if you were working in a safe environment, most of that is automated. And then when you pass to that level, then the PO can now accept it. All right. Then the next point, which you should kind of tie up with, I talk about measuring team performance. So team performance is measured by metrics. So the metrics are like if you look at your bend down chart, which is automatically generated, you'll be able to see if the team actually completed all the story, right? If you look at your sprint velocity after a completed sprint, it shows you the number of the story the team committed to and what they finished. So you can use that to measure the performance of your team. Now you can also look at the burn-up chart. And in general, the sprint report is the first metrics. The sprint report tells you what story were completed, what story we start developing, and we did not complete, what story were ready for development and you did not really pick them up.
The bend down chart.
No, that is the sprint report. So the sprint report is like a general. Now the bend down chart gives you how many story points were remaining. Yeah, it gives you how you're progressing. Any story that goes to done, if you go to the bend down chart.
And these are types of chart of metrics.
Yeah, these are type of metrics. So you as a Scrum Master, those reports are generated automatically. If you go to your Jira board, there's a section called report. If you click that, you see that. So let's say that you're a new Scrum Master to a team. One of the things you need to check is you need to go to your Jira board and see their report and kind of check like the last 4 sprints, how the report like. You might see, is it a team that finished work on time? Is it a team that always leave work to the last day? All those charts will show you. You will see what is expected versus what was the reality. So that start help you, giving you information on where the team need more coaching. And when you know most of those issues, you discuss them in the retrospective.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So that clears acceptance criteria, sprint review retrospective. Overall, you did great. You definitely will move to the next section of the interview. Now, okay, the last thing which you should focus on for the question when the interviewer complete and said, "Do you have questions for me?" Now, you don't need to ask them about the company culture because that is what you should have researched in the first place before coming.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So you should ask them about what is, if you were to give me a feedback on the way to improve myself. Now, this is the way I would put it. I always like to know what I could do to improve myself, to continuously learn. If you were to give me an advice on what I could do to improve on my next interview, what exactly would that be? And people that are honest will give you like, oh, I think you were not really paying so much attention on me. Try to focus on your camera, not on look inside. They will give you, people that are candid will give you real question. And then this is also the point that you understand based on their feedback if you're even moving to the next point or not. For instance, yeah, that's the reality. Let's say, for instance, you ask the feedback and I say, I think you were not paying attention to me. You were just looking at your board and it's already kind of giving you the perception, right? But if I say, last time you did great, I'm going to put my report and I'll move it forward. So you should expect to hear from. Most of them will openly tell you that way. Now, if they answer the question and they say, definitely you should expect to hear back from all, you did great. Some of them will tell you that, I think you move to the next level. Some will say, okay, we'll get back to you. Now, if they don't say that, the next question will like, how soon should I expect to hear from you? So those are the two main questions you should ask.
Good.
Yeah. And then if you want to add a third question, now the third question will gonna be like, just this is more like a personal question for you, like being with this company, what's kind of your experience in terms of the reality in the culture. Now that's gonna be more like a personal question for them. Yeah. And then they'll be able to kind of share it. Now, if you look at what was happening is this is for someone that's very confident, right? While we're having your interview, I had my cup of coffee. Now, when I interview, I do the same thing like when I'm going for an interview, right? Because some of those interviews might even go up to 1 hour, 30 minutes. I always like to have, you can have your glass of water or something. It kind of show them that you relax, right? Even when you don't get the answer, right? Those that relax, they're looking for someone with confidence. And the way you did to master all the baseline, it's okay that sometimes you might not really miss out one or two things, but that doesn't mean that you can make it to the next level.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, team, for actually following up. So this is kind of a pre-mock interview. We'll be having more updates in our subsequent edition, but don't go without subscribing, hit the like button. If you want to join our mastermind group, in this video, I'm going to leave a text, my number. Just send me a text or send me an email on how you can join our mastermind group. And then we are going to help you to achieve that goal. Do have a great rest of your day.